What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I wanted to talk about the newest season of Jurassic World's Netflix show. Chaos Theory picks up the story well after the survivors of Nublar were last seen, and in a post-Dominion world, I was really curious to see how they would handle all of this. There are some very different things going on here that I think are interesting, to say the least, and while I personally think the Camp Cretaceous series really fell off hard, I was also someone who thought that the earlier seasons had some genuine merit. So how does this one rank? And will anything within the show have tie-in material with that new movie? Okay, so the basic premise for this show is that after everyone got rescued and is now on the mainland, the events of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom have gone down. So dinosaurs are all over the place. Actually, this is even more past that because the events of Battle at Big Rock have happened, with the Allosaurus that attacked the people in that short film having basically killed Brooklyn in between fights that the various young adults now were having with each other. There's some drama there and tension. Characters are kind of all over the place in this new series because it's been a while since we've caught up with them. You know, they're not all hanging out together, if you know what I mean. And yeah, there's basically a murder mystery going on with dinosaurs hunting down people that were involved in the whole fall of Isla Nublar and Manticore incidents. There's also a little bit of setup for Dominion here, but the general story is that this is set right after Battle at Big Rock and much before Dominion. Now, my general thoughts on the show. The rumors of it being darker are true, and I actually think that it is written slightly better than I imagined it would be. However, there are some things that come off rather forced, and some other ideas that I think don't genuinely sit well. If you're one of the people that thought it was a bit of a stretch to have the forced romance between Yaz and Sammy, they go all in on that, and I kind of expected it. It's a little bit different now because they're full grown, but it's still kind of odd. But that's not just the only thing that's kind of strange. It's also weird to see yet another kind of love triangle going on with, you know, what's going on with Brooklyn, Darius, and Kenji. Now, Kenji I actually really liked in this. I liked Darius a lot too. Brooklyn's presence, the fact that she's not here is actually missed. And I do think that the new characters they involved in the show are kind of hit and miss. Like, I'll talk about the villain a little bit later, but there are some genuinely memorable scenes in it. I don't really think it's as good as people have said, where it's like, oh my gosh, it's a return to form for Jurassic World. I'm like, I'm not quite in that camp. But one of the other things I wanted to talk about was the overall tone and addition of new species. It is darker, like I said, and the Beckel Spinax has some really cool scenes in it. I think one of the best scenes actually involves the attack on Ben's van in the middle of the bridge over the ocean, and we've got some cool Pachyrhinosaurus stuff in here, and a surprising amount of Suchomimus at the end, which was a pretty cool character model. There's also some very wacky stuff that happens with all of these dinosaurs, and it does remind me of the mindset that they have been in for the whole, like, stick your hand out and stop a dinosaur. It's not as extreme in this, and the Atrociraptors are particularly good. They're actually really good, and they do ground things better. But speaking of which, while, you know, the other dinosaurs are still off in, you know, Jurassic World Dominion La La Land, the raptors are really good. Their Wrangler is interesting. I don't know if this is a reference to Dr. Belvedere from the 1990s Jurassic Park comics, but the character model and kind of design was very eerie. She creeped me out a lot with a little whistle, and actually reminded me a lot of the villain from Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that the raptor stuff was handled very well. A highlight of the season was one of the really memorable kills involving Kenji's dad. Now, that was one of the best scenes of the show, but again, it kind of goes back and forth because sometimes you get like a very forced, like, Tiger King reference, and when the Stygimolots were attacking people, I was like, oh, come on, they would have been completely killing people like what happened in Fallen Kingdom. It was slapstick and silly, but there was consequences for when something would happen. You thought that someone's rib cage was shattered, whereas this, it's just kind of silly. And I know it's animated, so there is that. You know, you have to understand what this thing even is. Now, what does it mean for the lore? Honestly, this is the most interesting thing about everything set on the mainland further down the line. They set up Dominion a little bit, but you're not really contingent on having seen really any Jurassic Park movie apart from maybe 1 or 2 seasons of Camp Cretaceous. You don't really need to know much. You don't even really need to know much about the movies themselves, except for the park failed and the dinosaurs got released. You could watch this right after Fallen Kingdom if you wanted to. Or heck, you could watch this right after season 3 of Camp Cretaceous. The final episode, I think, would have actually worked really well in live action, because one of the things that holds the series back, it actually does look good in terms of the character models and environments, but they have this animated floaty feel where nothing is quite as grounded and realistic as it can be. But if it had been in live action, I can imagine the weight of a tyrannosaur or explosion or like car crash being way more severe. And that's just one of the things you kind of have to deal with this. This is a modern series with modern messages. You guys know what I mean, and I'm not a fan of stuff like that, and I think a lot of people aren't. It's nothing to do with disagreement so much as just inauthenticity. And I do think that the show is a step up from what we've seen before. It's still not as good as seasons 1 or 3. I would probably say for me, it's most similar to season 2 of Camp Cretaceous. And that comes complete with explosions, silly ideas, and a lot of stuff that I think could have been really cool. There's scenes that really stand out for me. There's a part of the season where they go to Brooklyn's like apartment, and it was starting to get more interesting there. I do think this darker direction is a smart way to go, especially since people are kind of like growing up with the show. Darius and Kenji, Kenji makes me smile. I'll say that. There's a great moment where he shuts off the lights in his little camper, and you're expecting it to be silly, and you're like, what is he doing? And I immediately thought about when I ran my own business. I was like, did they glow in the dark? And then his little like stickers glow. I was like, this is actually making me smile. This is cool. Speaking of which, there's a scene involving Kenji and Darius where they climb this mountain and overlook it, and you see the sunlight hit the translucent parasaurs at the perfect moment, and they shine. That is a great idea. Again, that would have been very good in live action, but for what this is, it works well enough. I want to be as like transparent as I can be. The fake out ideas, big mistake in this show. The final shot actually made me laugh, and I feel bad because it just, again, it feels forced and silly. I don't really believe it like when I saw it, and the whole end with, I believe his name was Daniel Cabrera, as like, he literally sounds like the dialogues from a Scooby-Doo episode. He's like, I would have gotten away with it too if you weren't for you meddling kids and Bumpy, the Scooby-Doo dinosaur. It's just kind of, it's too much. Now, it is kind of more serious. I think it's not quite what people are making it out to be, and that leads me to my next thing. Is this going to be successful? Will there be more? Well, you know, I'm more of an old school Jurassic Park fan. There will probably be at least one more season of this, and hopefully they can kind of dial some stuff back and make it a little more, I don't know. I feel like there are people out there, like if they have a disagreement with any creatives on the show or any directions that they're going in, just know that people come from all different walks of life, and that doesn't mean anybody's like angered at the fact that an animated Jurassic World modern thing exists. Like I said, I was very kind to the 1st and 3rd seasons. So just include more people that are classic Jurassic fans into the whole time span. Think you'll be okay. My life has changed drastically over the last few years. I've become much more concerned and interested in not only Christianity for myself, but for like the souls of my friends and family around me. Dominion trashed like my whole thought of like what this series could be. I know you guys like it out there, some of you anyways. Me, not so much. So I've been watching a lot of different movies lately. Gareth Edwards' film The Creator I just watched in preparation for the new Jurassic Park movie. Beautiful. Highly recommend The Creator. It has actually eased my mind about the new film, which I don't think is going to tie into the Camp Cretaceous series, but I watched that. I watched Kimmy, which was a newer film written by David Koepp, who's writing the next Jurassic Park movie. Much stronger writing than we've seen in a long time. So I only bring this up because of Jurassic Park being, you know, a big pivotal moment of not only my life, but all of you guys, you know, out there, you're big fans. And this is what I think we have to look forward to in the next film, which is not going to be tied into the series. I think they're going to probably stay the course with this Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Chaos Theory stuff and just continue it like Rebels or Clone Wars, whereas people like me are probably going to have to, you know, wait for the actual films. It's not to say there's no merit in this. I thought it was pretty cool. I have no idea what happens next. The ending, like I said, it made me laugh because it's hard to believe. There's some cool ideas here. There's definitely definitely a darker tone, a better visual look, but again, you know, replicating scenes like Claire's run with the flare, throwing it on the T. I didn't even know what was going on with Darius at the end. I was like, are they just trying to cause chaos or like, but it's clearly meant to mimic the end of Jurassic World. I just wish that things were a bit more grounded because the characters are getting older, and yeah, I don't quite think it's as dark as people are saying, especially because of the fake out at the very end. With that being said, I do think that chaos theory is going to be popular with fans of the Jurassic World line. I'm a little more old school, so that is what it is. Favorite stuff is the attack sequences with the Beckel Spinex. The Atrociraptors were very cool in this, particularly going after people with the whistle actually works fairly well. It reminded me of old school Jurassic Park ideas from the 1990s, but it's also something that's not quite dialed into where I think it should be. The Suchomimus was a surprise. I was very happy to see the Pachyrhinosaurus. It's just some of it doesn't feel authentic enough to me, and like it fits in the same universe as even the original Jurassic Park, which I rewatched again. You can't beat the first one. You don't have to rip it off and copycat it, but you should be going for that tone. And they're getting closer. Little too silly though with a lot of the ideas. There's certain parts that really shocked me, like everything they did with Yaz, where she's kind of living in a safe space for people that have PTSD for dinosaurs. That was kind of laughable to me. It's like, okay, you need to like run away from the dinosaurs and feel comfortable, but the show had fun with it too because the dinosaurs attack the safe space and start eating people, which was, I think it just kind of feels detached though from the other Camp Cretaceous lore. Darius, he comes in clutch with Kenji. I think those characters feel like normal people. The other ones, I don't know, they feel like caricatures or stereotypes. So hard to really nail everything down, if you know what I mean. Because there's a scene in the first episode where Darius is chasing the Allosaurus in his car, and I don't know, something about that felt like, okay, this is, if this was in live action, this would have been perfect, like right after Fallen Kingdom. But then they give scenes where like Ben is like singing the rock music in his van, and it's just cringe a little bit, and Bumpy, everything with the laying the egg was a little strange, to put it mildly. The action sequence that involved the dinosaurs at the end of the Tyrannosaurus, the Suchomimus, there's something about just hearing the Tyrannosaurus like sound effect that makes you immediately go, oh yeah, I'm watching a Jurassic Park thing. So, you know, clued me back in, but it's interesting. It's interesting that they went in this direction. Not really sure where things are going to go from here, but the other thing, guys, what do you think it would be like if they actually got Jeff Goldblum to at least show up in like an Ian Malcolm role that tied everything into Biosyn? Do you think that that would work well? I'm always down for more Goldblum. If they announce him in the next movie in a cameo, I'll be over the moon. But Jurassic World Chaos Theory is a darker and more mature continuation from Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. It's very modern, it's very much of its time, but it is trying to be a little darker. The ending, I don't believe for a second, and I don't know what they were, maybe they were thinking like Furiosa. It doesn't come off like that though, so yeah, that's pretty much all my thoughts and opinions on it. What do you think? And also, I want to ask you guys what you think this would be like if it was transferred into live action. I'm kind of 50-50 on it myself, although I would love to see the Beckel Spinex in like a live action form of CG model. I mean, that could be pretty cool. Anyways, whatever your own thoughts and opinions happen to be, I'd love to hear all about them in the comments down below. Now, before I go, I want to thank everyone that's helped me build my channel over the years. I'd also like to thank every one of you guys who've watched my stuff. You've all been extremely cool to me. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like and hope that you'll consider subscribing. God bless you all. Christ is King. See you guys in the next video, and as always, take it easy.